What's up, guys? That was the wrong person. My name is Francis, and I am your chair co-host, and I have my vice co-host, Nathan Brandt.
Vice chair. Vice. Oh, okay. Yeah, sure.
I am the primary liaison to the Coalcast. Today is episode 43. Once again, Evan got very upset about me not knowing what episode we were on, what season we were on, so now he writes it down. Also, today's April 9th, because he thinks I need to know the date as well.
Today is not April 9th.
As though, oh yeah, today is actually not April 9th. Evan,
it's the release date. And that is significant because there's something
today is
very
April 9th.
exciting happening today.
Okay.
As in April 9th.
As in April 9th. So the introduction today, Evan is heartless, so he wants me to start out by telling you guys we're not giving you anything. There's no giveaway this week. We have had pretty good response to the giveaway, so they're not going away. But we have families and babies and things like that to feed, so giving things away all the time doesn't necessarily always make sense. So we're not doing that this week, but if you want to, just tag us in a silly picture. Just something that'll make Evan laugh. He likes memes of cats. He's also in part of that generation of memes that don't make sense. Like it'll just be like a plate of spaghetti and say like, my mom cooked the lasagna, and that's the whole thing, and Evan thinks it's hilarious. What was the one I told you the other day, Evan, that you thought was hilarious? Was it like, imagine pooping, this meme sent by P Gang? And
It was something like that.
yeah, it just, you lost it. Very.
I feel attacked.
What's the term for that? Very meta. Is that what people are calling it these days?
I can't help with this conversation.
No. So, yeah, tag us in your most Evan meme as just described. That's the contest for this week. There's just no prize giveaway.
Love that.
So, coming up, as you are listening to this, I am in hopefully sunny California. We have sent out a couple presses. Yesterday, a very good friend, John, reached out to us, who's part of CBA, and he's on the board with Abana, and very gently coaxed me into sending out induction forges by saying, I have generators, send induction forges. So this whole thing of me telling you that induction forges will not be available because I don't have electricity is a lie straight from the devil's tongue. I will have a 15 kilowatt and a 25 kilowatt available for purchase at Amador County Fairgrounds is where this is taking place. So that is the update that I have for CBA. The instructor list I have honestly not had time to go over because they have a lot going on. So I'm used to Quad State where you have a couple instructors a day kind of doing little demos. The way they do theirs is when they bring an instructor out, they will demo like a full 3-day class. And so they have like 5 or 6 of those going at any time. And I'm not kidding you when I tell you I think they have 30 coal forges going in the green coal kit or green coal area. Ira's going to be out there. I've talked to Ira a few times. Seems like a very, very nice fellow. Look forward to hanging out with him. He has a 25 ton from us, and I believe an induction, but I'm not sure. I don't. If I'm lying on you, Ira, I'm sorry. So I'm at CBA, and because I'm at CBA, next week's episode will not feature me. How excited are you for that, Nathan? We have a special guest lined up. I'm not going to say it just in case it doesn't work out, but we have a special guest for either you or Greg to sit down and chat with coming through next week. And so that'll be fun. Bob Rankin Hammerin, once again, reach out to Bob if you want to go to that. He will give you address and details. It is a publicly private event, so that'll be the April 26th. We will be up there for that. Well, myself and Greg, I believe, and potentially Josh. And then the last note on the agenda is Intro to Forged Blade May 3rd. Evan, talk about that because I don't work for the school.
Sure. That, I believe, I'm pulling it up, is one of Brett's classes.
The best human being I know.
Just the greatest. I think there are a few spots open for this class left. That didn't make a whole lot of sense the way I just said that. It's a full-day knife forging class. You start with a piece of bar stock, forge it, heat treat it, grind it, the whole nine, all in a day. It's a lot of fun, and Brett is amazing, and you should want to come and hang out with him.
Are you going to make kumai in the class?
No, that is just the photo he sent me.
Okay.
I don't even know if he made that.
It's just some random stranger's knife.
Yeah. He's like, I like this knife. That's the advertisement.
That sounds like something Brett would do, though, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that.
Okay.
It's stolen valor.
Oh my gosh.
Brett's not a stolen valor guy. All right, so that is updates, news, events. Anything else you can think of? News, events, updates, things going on in your world that are coal related. We'll go over not coal related at the end.
Love that dead air. Let's keep going.
You're being shy. It's like talking to a toddler.
No, I just got up super early with my baby.
Yeah. Hey, buddy, how's your day going? All right, so today we are going to talk hammers, presses, machines, what's capable of what, why, and when. Some of you may work out of a smaller shop, maybe a 1 or 2 car garage, and you really need to justify what machines you bring in, in what order, what's going to be the most helpful right off the bat, and also just what machines you need to bring in over time and what kind of doesn't work in your process. So we are going to cover that. Evan, do I say it now?
Say what?
The thing?
Oh, sure. Go for it.
Because, Nathan, jazz hands or drums, today the KA75 is live on the website and you can order it. Pricing may be updated. This is our pre-sale price listed right now that we sold out of. Thank you guys, everybody that bought a pre-sale KA75 and funded this project for us. Those have all been shipped about a month and a half ago.
It was like 2 months ago.
Yeah, it was like 2 months ago. So the pre-sales are all shipped. The pricing that you just saw on the video may be updated, but it'll be similar.
We're very close.
Yeah. So those will ship same way 12 tons do on a pallet to your house. You don't need rigging or your own forklift. They are very manageable machines. This is... what feels like 3 years of...
I think it was 2 years. I think Logan and I went up to Postville.
The beginning of last year, right?
I think it was... okay. Yeah, maybe a year and a half. Yeah, something like that.
But we bought it in 2024.
I don't know. Last year was 2024.
We bought it in 2023.
We were negotiating in 2023. I think we went then January 24. I think.
Okay.
It might have been 23. It might have been full 2 years. But it was just a product that seemed really complicated from the outside. Mm-hmm. And once we went and figured it out, that was a layer. But then we had to bring the process in-house. Mm-hmm. And so that was a whole nother layer of figuring out how to get some of the parts made. One of the big issues that we ran into was lathing the large diameter stuff. So we have a local shop here, Magna Machine Tool. They are world class, and they've got some nice big lathes that can help us out. So we were considering bringing everything in house, but they're up the street. Mm-hmm. So we'll leverage that until we don't.
Yep.
For
reasons.
Yep.
Yeah. So I was talking to a gentleman on the phone, not yesterday, but the day before, and he kept saying, which is weird because I work in the hydraulics industry, and he kept saying that hydraulics were romantic to him, that there was just so much going on, and there was a history to things and how things got figured out and all this stuff. And I think, to me, the KA75 is the closest machine that I have. Obviously, I'm sentimental about the press and our power hammer and some of the stuff that we've done around the shop. But as far as like the history of machines, I know Logan gets really into it about the Marvel Sols and Dake presses and stuff like that. But man, the K75 is romantic, genuinely, for being designed by blacksmiths for blacksmiths. And then Bob taking over and selling those. I had the privilege of talking to Bob a couple weeks ago on the phone, and he kind of laid out what they wanted the K to be and what they wanted it to do as far as a product offering.
Yeah.
And it never really quite got there, but he never gave up on it. And it was really an honor because he was excited that we specifically got it.
Awesome.
And he was, oh yeah, I don't even think I've told you about this.
No.
So he has a neighbor that was looking for, he was like, oh, I think I'm going to build me a small blacksmith shop. And Bob was like, that's crazy because you literally don't have any better person in the world to be neighbors with. And he told him, he said, we're deciding between a self-contained or a KA. What I like about the KA is that now that you guys are making it, it's straight out of the box, comes with a warranty. He doesn't have to do any setup. If we buy a self-contained, maybe whoever rebuilt it didn't do it exactly right. There's no warranty, whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah, great. You, Bob Bergman, just called me to purchase a K75. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But the whole history, and I got into I forge iron late. I was probably 25, 26. So that would have been 2015.
Yeah.
But still, even then, I got into it right before the crash. So whenever the website crashed, is when I got onto it. And it was like every other post was the K75. And I didn't realize, A, how many are in the field, and B, how many are not in the field. They still are kind of a niche machine. So
yeah,
that's why we are discussing the power hammers, the presses, and what I would call the perfect utility hammer. It's not quite a power hammer. Yes, it is a single blow, but also it's repetitive. Like you just step on the pedal twice, so it's not like a true single blow.
I mean, it's a lot more like a drop hammer.
Yeah.
So I think when I got exposed to the K75 as a 13-year-old kid, I knew who Grant Sarver was because I was on iForge Iron young. And so, I was aware of him and who he had been in the industry for a long time. And anyway, I was looking at the K75 at that point because it was the smallest footprint machine I could find. And as I was working out of 200 square feet. And it was a packed 200 square feet. So I thought, man, this is going to be a power hammer that will fit. And it was the cheapest option. Everything else you're looking at, Max or Sahindlers, and they were, or an Anyang at the time, and they were $10,000. And so, I think at that point they were about $3,000. And so I thought that was going to be the best machine. And ultimately, I didn't get one. And Andy built a press, and then that was a trajectory. So I think, similar footprint between a small, DIY press or one of our H-frame press. Like it's a very similar, floor space.
Yeah.
But the K75 is just a really interesting tool. It's very similar to a treadle hammer, but it's, it says 75 pounds. The actual ram is 100 pounds once assembled. And I remember the first time I used one when we were thinking about buying K75 and I went to Postville and I stepped on the pedal. I looked at whoever, I think Logan was with me that time, or maybe it wasn't. I don't remember. Somebody was with me at that point too. And it was Logan. And I looked at him and I was like, I mean, it just smashed the material. And I was so impressed because it's not like a power hammer where it's, you know, it's coaxing the material into position. It's just smashing it. And so, yeah, I was totally sold after that one hit. I was just like, yeah, this, you know, the combination of when I was 13, I had reached out to Bob and asked to buy one on payment plan. And he was like, no, thanks.
Probably not 13-year-old with no credit.
No income, you know, I'll pay $100 a week or something. And, yeah, so, anyway, I want to get to your question and we can talk more in depth about all that, but you know, I am also honored to have a position where we were able to step into that void and make sure that this product didn't die off. And you know, it's so cool to be a part of continuation of that history, as well as, you know, I think there's a huge untapped potential in the basic design of the KA75 where we can refine some things and make some other very, very cool stuff.
That was the second part of the conversation I had with this gentleman when I brought up K75s was essentially there is no reason that you can't do a 250 pound. And I said, well, actually there are a couple of those live and in the field. And from what I understand, one of them still works.
I think I know of two 150s.
Okay.
Which maybe their, you know, actual ram weight's closer to 200. I know of two 150s. I know Nathan Robertson has one, and I've seen another one in a guy's shop on a you know, random Facebook post.
They built one for Kurt to demo with at an event, and then Kurt tried to buy it, but they had already sold it during the event to somebody else.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, this is awesome.
Yep.
I just want to go home with it. And they were like, ooh, somebody already got you. He's like, while I was running it? That seems not fair.
Yeah, no, I think, you know, I have one in my home shop. And the first thing that I thought while I was using it was, man, I want 100 more pounds. And so, you know, when you do the math on the constraints of the system, you can very easily, you know, get up to 350, 400 pounds.
Well, it scales.
Well, and then you can
just
adjust the lifting mechanism and the, you know, so I'm pumped to do some experimentation. I want to bring mine back and throw together some modifications on it and see how far you can push it with the existing air system.
Just put a bunch of lead weights on it.
I'm literally going to weld a bunch of press cheeks on it. Yeah. I'm just going to weld all the scrap metal in the shop to it until it won't lift it anymore.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's going to be
so like sick. I was kidding, but you're genuinely doing
No, I'm 100%. Yeah,
okay.
No, I already have planned. Going to increase the stroke a little bit because the thing is, it's not the way that the mechanism of the air system works. It's actually pulling the ram down, so it's not raw velocity. Like with a board drop hammer, it's just velocity.
Right.
It picks it up and it drops it. So you have to have 1,000 pound weight. Minimum, right? You know, smallest drop hammer I've ever seen was, I mean, you can see in jewelry shops, but I'm talking about forging shops, you know, they're doing closed die forging on 1,000 pounds. So, so I can bump the weight up and increase air pressure, and then we can increase stroke.
Right.
So you've got three variables to play with right off the bat that you can turn that thing into a monster. Yep. So I'm super excited, you know, and you're not, as you're scaling that, like your material costs increase, but the actual assembly time and stuff like that, it's the same.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know how far we can push it with the existing system. I have it on paper, you know, but with some simple modifications, we should be able to get roughly 550-ish pounds of lifting power. So, you know, 350 is not off the table. But yeah, I'm just going to bring mine back and start welding on plates until I can't lift it anymore, and then we'll take a plate off.
Okay. I want to just throw this out there because we do this a lot where we talk about what we want to do and then I get phone calls for it. The KA75 or the KA350, I guess it would be.
Is not going to be available for years.
Is not going to be available for years.
Yeah.
If and when it does become available, I will hopefully be retired. So
not that many years.
He'll never let me retire.
No, never. Be a man, die at work.
Get the overtime till they find you.
Until they find you.
We've had a couple employees that if I, went back and found a corner, it wouldn't shock me. Anywho, so yeah, there are some things to play with, but I really want to get into when it's appropriate to have each machine. What machine would you have first, depending on, different scenarios? So, say all I want to do is sell Damascus. The first machine I would buy would be a press.
Yeah.
If all I'm doing is making knives, the first machine that I would buy would probably be a small power hammer. If I'm doing hammers, as far back as I lost the words, about 2 months ago, if you would have asked me, hey, I'm a small tool maker, what do I need first? KA75, power hammer, or press?
Yeah.
I would have said press.
Right.
It's just so much more versatile.
Yeah.
After working on the KA75 much more the past 2 months, because it's coming out and I have to be able to
Speak to it.
Right. And then also going back and digging through, pausing the Larson video that we posted and then taking notes and saying,
which, if you haven't seen that, we released a video with Larson forging a hammer on the K75, and it's free. Sign up for the class. It's a free class, and it is
I also think it's free on
super
YouTube.
good. It might be.
That is correct.
Yeah. So I watch it on YouTube. That's how I know it was.
Yeah.
But taking notes on that and then going back and trying it. If you're a small tool maker, the K75 is perfect. In almost every way. If you are used to working with a striker, like a lot of the guys at the IBA, when they go to events, they do the Brazil style.
Their tooling will transition over really nicely.
Exactly. You don't have to buy anything else.
Right. You can use the tooling under a press, but every time you're right on the edge of collapsing the eye and destroying everything. Yeah.
All your tools are too long to use under a press. I can guarantee it. If it's more than 2.5 inches, don't use it under a press. Sorry, I thought you were going to do longer on the Larson video. Okay, so let me see if this question.
It's basically.
We'll do this. We'll do this after. So, in your humble opinion, Nathan, let's start with the KA because it is the marquee of this episode. In what shop or in what making lane or venture would you prioritize getting a KA over a press or a hammer?
Well, it's really dependent on a couple things. If you have, I think your comment on if you've worked with a striker a lot, I think the KA75 is a really natural choice for you. As far as the difference between a power hammer, a press, and a KA, or, it's a utility hammer, it's a single blow hammer. Excuse me. If you're used to working with a striker, I think the K75 is a really natural because you probably already had some tooling. The K75 with flat dies and a myriad of top tooling is a very competent, capable machine.
Yes.
So it's one of those things where you kind of need to pick what tool you're going to bring into the shop first. You can base it on your experience and your products, but the reality is no matter what machine you bring in, you're going to have to learn how to use it and you're going to set your process up around that machine. I got exposed to a press really young, so I built a lot of my tooling. I didn't have a lot of top tooling. I did a lot of dies, right? And so I think no matter what machine you bring in, you're going to have to tool up for it. You're going to have to use that in your process and you're going to change it. So for example, if I was forging the best made axes on a K75, I would have a ton of top tools. I would, my process would be very different.
It's so doable though.
It would be doable.
It's slower. I get it.
Yeah. I think for something as large as a 4-pound felling axe, I think the K75 is not going to be your favorite tool. The press is better in that regard, in my opinion, because I can set up a punch set, drifting set, and do that kind of work really fast. I think the real benefit of a utility hammer is when you're doing smaller batch work or higher end work where you need to be able to slowly manipulate the material into position, and you can really, like a striker, you can put the effort exactly where you want it. You really have to tool up die sets to accomplish that work in a press. And so if you're going to do a batch of 100 of something, a press might be a better option because you can design dies very effectively that will be extremely repeatable. But if you're doing a lot of handwork, a KA75 is going to allow you to use planishing and flatters and really tune the work very effectively. And so no matter what you get, you're going to have to tool up for it. You're going to have to learn. There's a learning curve to each of these machines. I would say the power hammer learning curve's probably the biggest.
Yeah, for sure.
But on a side note, that's expecting that you have some die and tooling under your belt to make the press a more versatile tool. I think the press is incredibly versatile if you have the competency to build and think through die sets and the tooling that needs to go into the machine. The KA75 is probably on the shortest learning curve because you have so much control and you are controlling every single blow. It is a guy with a 75-pound hammer standing on the other side of your anvil. And I think that's why Kurt, when he's doing demonstrations and stuff here, often goes back to the KA75 because it's really effective at, I need to tweak this. I need to straighten this. I need to put this little, if you're doing a lot of stamping, if you're doing riveting, if you're doing things like that, a KA75 can be a really effective tool because you can put as much hit on exactly where you want it to go, probably more so than any other tool. Coaxing a single blow out of a power hammer can be challenging, even a self-contained. You really got to learn how to whip it into that, and you got to time it right with the crank and all that.
Well, and it's different on every single. So just because you're good on it on your hammer doesn't mean you're going to go to somebody else's shop.
Absolutely.
Anytime people ask me about power hammers versus presses, and now versus K75, the learning curve for a power hammer is greater. Not necessarily because I think it's harder to run a hammer than a press. I actually think they're pretty similar as far as like difficulty in learning. The difference is I can go to your shop and your press works the exact same way mine does. Up, down.
Right.
I just have to variable speed,
Sure.
or I have to account for the variable speed. Hammers have personalities.
Yeah, for sure.
It's it's like hanging out with Evan and then going and just because I've gotten used to hanging out with Evan and then I go hang out with Evan's brother, they're very similar, but Evan's brother has a completely different personality and I now need to learn how to adjust myself to Evan's brother. It's a weird metaphor there, but that's kind of how I feel about hammers is when you're learning initially between a press and a power hammer, you're going to learn pretty equally. You're going to get spooled up. But then you go to somebody else's house and you all of a sudden don't know how to run a hammer because you didn't learn.
I mean, you can get like basics, and there's going to be crossover muscle memory between all of these three machines, right? After forging as much as I have recently, I have found I'm able to jump on the rider hammer back in the school and the 60 ton, the 12 ton, I can just move between because I understand how the material is going to move and I need it to do this one thing. Like I was doing some samples the other day and I took it to the rider because I wanted to get really thin in this one section and it was the easiest tool. But then I went back to the press and planished out. I don't know, you will be able to you can kind of make do with whatever machine you end up with.
Yep.
But I would say if you're looking to get into, this is going to be controversial, some of the most conventional methods of forging, I think the KA75 is a great option for people that are doing traditional forging and want to kind of continue that because you're using a lot of crossover top tools that you could use at your anvil with a striker. You can just treat it like you have another smith in your shop. A press, I would say the biggest learning curve with the press is the tooling and being able to think in tooling. And then the power hammer is your ability to respond to how, that also is like, I can't go to a KA75 or or a power hammer and forge 5-inch round stock. Yeah. Like there's a level where a press is like, it's just the right tool for forging down large stock. Now I can go to Logan's 3B and break that stock down, but the scale there is so, that 3B when it was built might have been $100,000 hammer that went into an industrial shop.
Somewhere around there. We looked it up.
And so then, it's not fair really when you're looking at like a product line of new offerings. And we're talking about a $4,000 machine versus a $100,000 machine. It's not the same thing.
Right.
It's not even on the same playing field. And so, I would say a beginner shop, especially if you're doing a lot of small work. I think Derek Melton, we always reference him because he's just such a pillar of our community at this point.
Perfect in almost every way.
He goes to his treadle hammer a lot, and it's often to do stamping or final work. And I think the KA75 is more capable than a treadle hammer, of course. I am always disappointed with treadle hammers because it seems like I should be able to get a similar blow to somebody standing there with a 15 or 20 pound sledgehammer. It's not that at all.
They also always feel sloppy. Like the linkage and the chain. Like,
there's just a lot going on.
Yeah, it just always feels
Andy
like,
had that pneumatic one. That was the closest thing that I've ever thought to like, this actually hits pretty good.
I never ran it. I don't know what that is.
I got a video last night. It's just a treadle hammer with an air cylinder on it. It's more similar to a K75 than anything else.
Okay.
You press the air cylinder, it slams the head down.
I think I know. I think, yeah.
But I would just say you can do that work in a K75, but it can also forge.
Yeah, I think going back to your point of, I think K75s line up with more, would you call it contemporary, traditional?
Conventional, traditional. Yeah.
I think that matches up fine because, you are in the shop alone, you're working on your K75, you're using your top tool, and then all of a sudden your buddy wants to come over.
Then you move to the anvil.
You can just move to the anvil, right? I think for that reason, I agree with you. I also agree with you on you'll just kind of make it work. If you spend $5,000 on a machine, most people have to make that machine work. They can't go out, oh, well, this doesn't do the exact same thing or the exact thing that I need it to, so I'll go buy this other machine.
Right.
You have to pick a machine that you like the idea of that matches the brunt of your work and make it work for the other 20%.
Absolutely.
You can punch an eye on a KA.
Oh, absolutely.
You can punch an eye on a power hammer.
Yes, sure.
I still think presses are going to be the king of that. Right?
That sole operation.
That sole operation. Yeah. If I'm making hammers, but all I'm doing is provided billets with punched eyes, I'm buying a press every day of the week. If I'm making 50 hammers a day, I'm buying a press every day of the week because that would behoove me to build the dies for it and make that process fast. Right. If I'm building one or two artisanal hammers a day, I'm probably going K75.
Sure.
Just because exactly like you said, it gives you the control without taking away the spirit and the heart of craftsmanship. I think you do a really good job with this with the best made axes actually, is when you get into the kind of the mass production, Gransford Bruck makes a fantastic axe. But their goal is if you hold two of them side by side, you can't tell which one was made yesterday and which one was made 50 years ago.
Right.
That's kind of their goal.
Sure.
I like that each old gold or, purple nurple, whatever the ones you
the band. Purple nurple.
Well, it's got that purple. You guys did a purple
Nope.
tempering on?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Well, anywho,
I've got a purple one back here that when I was experimenting with what colors we wanted to go with. Yeah. I had a purple.
Well, let's release it called the Purple Nurple.
Probably not.
But I like that there's still the heart of the craftsman in it.
Yeah.
You can hold two side by side. Yeah. And there's difference.
They're similar.
They're similar.
But, that was something I talked with Peter a lot about. It was like, I really want to do this, but I don't want to go into this pretending like I'm
Counsel
tool.
Right.
That's not the situation. I want people to use a tool with their hands that was obviously made by hand.
Yes.
And yes, there's press work in it. I built the press, I built the dies, I designed the tooling, all of it, because like that's the spirit of what that product is supposed to be. This is a celebration of small craftsman made. And so it's important in a product line to that. And I want to see 1,000 small shops producing products like that. Not because as we talked in our last one, I don't think art should exist for art's own sake. I think artisan level utility driven products is absolutely the way. I've thought about that so
much since that conversation.
That's like my whole ethos of life is like it needs to be, we cannot let AI consume what has taken thousands of years to develop, and the competency of our entire society to make things by hand. Like, anyway.
Have you seen 9? The cartoon about the little dolls so there's an inventor and he makes these dolls, and I'm probably screwing this up. I haven't watched it in like 15 years. He takes these dolls.
Such a good movie.
And he instills different characteristics, different traits of himself into each doll. So it's
like a metaphor for God.
God and communism. Yeah, communism is bad. God is good. It kind of is.
We're calling the episode now.
But they live in the world where it's machines have taken over, and what happened was they started making machines that could intelligently build machines.
Sure.
So they kill all the people, they don't need them anymore, whatever. And there's these dolls. And I think 9 is Courage. Yes, he's Courage. And he goes and saves all the other dolls. A couple of them die, but at the end of the movie, they all kind of come out of their doll bodies and go into him, and he becomes a complete person. Anywho, all of that to be said.
This sounds like a wild movie.
It's a short. It's only like 25 minutes long.
Oh.
Super good. And I think it's Tim Burton produced it.
Yes.
Yes. So it was kind of in that era of Tim Burton doing.
Sure. I've
cool
seen
stuff.
that. I've seen that logo before. I've never watched it.
That kind of AI, I think we need to.
Well, it has a place, right? Like I want all my toilet paper to be the same. You know what I'm saying?
It doesn't bother me if toilet paper has variants.
You want like artisan grade toilet paper?
Honestly, if I could find it, I'd probably buy it. That's like, I don't spend money on anything except for other people eating.
Yes.
And
Amen.
Toilet paper. Like genuinely. Like
I now learned that about you.
Toilet paper, if I am in the toilet paper aisle, I go by price. And it is the highest price thing. Because you don't want to be in a situation where you thought you got it good and you didn't get it good, and then you're not going to be home for another 4 or 5 hours. You got to take care of it.
Okay.
So
this is your ethos. Got it.
Yeah, take care of the boomer. That's a weird part that we just got to on the AI conversation. But I don't care about if everything is identical. I want my TV to work. I don't care if it was built, and took 6 months to build. I also think we just need to stop getting into if it's repeatable, then it's probably crap. Because, growing up, my grandpa's TV was from like 1955 and had a whole cabinet built around it. And you designed or you decorated your living room based off of which cabinet you bought for the TV and all that. Now you get a new TV like every 3 years. It's like, I want, as a society, to get away from that, because that takes away the need for artistry and creativity. If I'm just going to get a new one in 2 or 3 years, there's no point in spending the extra time in making it look good. So that's where my kind of qualms with AI come. Yes, I want AI to write computer code, and I want it to understand. It would be nice to be able to Google, hey, this is how much money I make. These are my bills. Make me a budget and tell me what I can spend on other things. I think there are tons of great things that AI can do. In a creative space, though, that's where I start getting a little bit worried. This has turned into an AI weird conversation, but I don't like AI in that area because it's soulless and you can tell. It's heartless. The new thing this week has been Studio. Is it Ghibli or Ghibli?
I say Ghibli.
It's up for debate. Probably not, actually. I don't know.
There's probably like an actual pronunciation, and it's however he says his own name. I would assume.
I would take that as gospel. Yeah.
But the new thing this week is there's some AI app that's converting everybody into Studio Ghibli, and Derek Melton did one of me, and it's my profile picture now. But you can look at those pictures and then go watch a Studio Ghibli movie, and the pictures don't have the same soul.
Well, of course not.
And you can feel it. And I don't want to get into some big spiritual spiel on this, but you can tell when something was man-made and when something was computer generated, even in your heart when you're just looking at it. It feels like nothing. That's AI. It just stole from somebody else.
Miyazaki says Ghibli.
Ghibli, got it.
Well,
it's kind of like the guy who made GIFs, calls them GIFs, and everybody hates him for it.
With a soft G. The more you know.
It's pronounced Jod.
Ghibli.
Have you seen that?
no.
God comes down and he just says, it's pronounced Jod, and then goes back into heaven. It's the whole. Anyway, okay, so let's get back on topic. Let's talk about hammers, presses, and KA75s. So, your recommendation for if you're in a shop, all you've got is a hammer, an anvil, some tongs, right? And I mean literally all you have is a hammer, anvil, tongs, forge. That's it. What's the first machine you buy? Power hammer, K.
Well, what are you making?
Okay. I am interested in just learning blacksmithing at its core and the roots of what blacksmithing is.
Probably K75, but you're also going to have to buy an air compressor, right?
Well,
You know, I mean, I ran, as you tried to run the K75 at SOFA last year on my little 2-horse Craftsman, and it didn't do it.
it says 5.
Yes, you can't have 5 horsepower on 110 volt.
It says
That's
5.
not how watts work. But what I would say is, you know, I think a K75's awesome in that regard. Mm-hmm. You do have to buy an air compressor. I think most shops have or need an air compressor.
I think you buy an air compressor before you buy. The problem is
yeah.
the problem with the K75 is you need a big air compressor.
Yeah, I mean, you can run it on a 5 horsepower, no problem.
Yeah.
The one in the school's running on a 5, on an old 5, but that is the best. We bought that at SOFA 9 years ago for like $200. And that has been,
you just don't get those deals at SOFA anymore.
no. And that has been one of the most powerful air compressors I've ever used.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've had big air compressors. And that one still just performs stellar. And so it's a, I don't remember the name of it, but it's essentially like a Quincy or something like that. It's a clone. But you know, you need a 5 horsepower air compressor with a nice big tank. My home shop, I've got a 5 horsepower on I think it's probably an 80-gallon tank. And I've got 2 feet of line, you know, to keep it short. That sucker runs great.
Now, have you ever used a KA on, I don't know the technical term or if this is even appropriate to say. Evan, get ready with the bleeps. A slave tank. Have you ever run?
No, but when we were at Postville, they were running it on a 2 horsepower, but it had an 80-gallon tank. So you can't
it was just
run
always
it.
on.
Yes, but the thing is, you can't run it continuously.
Yeah.
Right. So you can't sit there and.
But he was making a blow, doing his adjustment.
Exactly.
You know, making a blow.
Exactly. You just need a volume of air at 100 psi. Mm-hmm. Right. I run mine on 120. That gives it a little extra oomph. You know,
don't do that.
The reason that 100 is fine. 120 is even fine. I wouldn't go over that just because
follow manufacturer guidelines.
Yeah, I think the okay. So well, my air compressor at home is rated for 250 psi, not the tank. Like that's what the compressor was for. And the one that we have out here was running when we bought it was running at 250 psi. So they had some automation system that was doing some crazy stuff. Anyway,
did that one come with the building?
No, we bought that. We had that at our last building.
Oh, yeah, that's
because
right.
we had a 10 horsepower that was, it was an old Eaton, and it was eaten up.
Yeah. She been eating.
So, you need an air compressor. It's one of those things where if you buy a 12 ton and put it in your shop, you're done. You're good to go, right?
Yeah.
And you can manipulate 2-3 inch stock in a 12 ton. You're not going to do that readily under a K75. So, if I was spooling up a new shop at my house, the K75, I would be looking. So at that at that price point of 4.5, it's like I could get in for a 12 ton and a lot of dies because I also have to buy an air compressor if I don't have one already. So a 12 ton with a bunch of dies is more capable. But when you're making that comment about I'm trying to learn conventional blacksmithing, I want to use top tools. I want to forge my own handled top tools. I want to use them under a hammer. K75's the best bet.
I would almost argue with you, if this is a hobby, the 12 ton makes sense. But if it's a guy who's like, I'm doing it, I'm jumping in.
Yeah, but
The idea of, you have to buy an air compressor, that comes along with a lot of other tools. And I think it's the idea of tools to make tools. The air compressor is going to give you a lot more capabilities just outside of the K75.
Well, sure.
So I would almost grant that, in my opinion. If I was looking at building my shop, the air compressor is kind of a moot point, because it's like, I'm going to have to get a good air compressor anyway.
Right.
Because I have all these other things I want to do, even if it's just, I want to put in a lathe and God forbid I have to sweep chips off myself. I want to be able to spray it off and sweep at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying, and I see your point. And this might be, we'll let the listeners at home decide. But the air compressor thing might honestly be a moot. Once again, think about, I guess we're not talking about Derek in this situation, but Derek just got that big Ingersoll Rand, and
yeah, he's got his plasma table though. He had to have it.
Yeah,
for that. I think.
But now he can have a KA75
in my shop. Once I got my air compressor hooked up, every machine I have is using air now. I use it to spray my punch lube on.
You find ways to use air when you have a big air
my
compressor.
big 10 by 90 grinder is air tensioned. So it's like I had to put it in for that machine too. So yeah, an air compressor, get an impact, get some die grinders, if you're feeling fancy, go on eBay and get a old Atlas Copco 7.5 horsepower grinder in your hands. We have one with that big stone on it, buddy. That thing will remove metal like no other device except for the 30-inch diameter, 15 horsepower. That's the 14 grit. That's a buddy that I'm too afraid to turn on.
14 grit.
Yeah, 14 grit.
It has as many grits as Evan has fingers.
So, I think it's a conversation, right? You got to figure out what's going to fit. I think the top tooling and using that as a striker, man, that's a killer setup.
Yep.
I would go presses because I think in my process, I never want to build one thing. I hate making one thing. I want to make 50. I want to make 100. That's why we're sitting in this office, because I didn't want to make one press. I wanted to make hundreds and thousands of them. So that's just how my brain works. So I tool up and I want to make dozens and dozens and dozens if I'm going to make one. So, you've got to decide that for yourself. I know a lot of guys that want to make one, and they want to make the best one that's ever existed. And, and I think KA75 is great for that. I do know full-time smiths that are making a living on a 12-ton though, but they're doing Damascus. So they've got the drawing dice set up in it. They use it to maybe isolate the tang and do some forging. But the thing with the press is you're always going to struggle at small dimensions. K75 is going to excel at those.
Right.
When you get to a 1/4 inch thickness, K75 does awesome.
Yep.
You're putting heat back into the work.
Anything under 3/8.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Where a press is like, you did great up until 3/8.
You're cooling down just as quickly as you're moving, and you can overcome that with tonnage, but that's not the right way to go, because you're going to just destroy that material.
You're going to shear everything.
So then you got to go to speed, and now you're looking at a 10 horsepower, 16 ton, right, to get to that same where you can isolate material out and draw it down past 3/8. The thing with the press is you can do you can do so many things in a shop with it's kind of like an air compressor. It's like you can do so many other things. Like I pushed where I'm assembling a custom die right now, and I did a precision fit and press fit a component of the die with our 60 ton. And that sucker is, I mean, that was fantastic, right? Like it's a very versatile tool in a shop, but that will be true of whichever one you bring into the shop.
Yep.
It's just going to be versatile in different ways. So, when I was doing sculpture work and ornamental work, I used my press for bending radiuses, for making all kinds of different things. I built this big custom adjustable width bending die. Something similar could be set up in a KA75 and even a power hammer. But as far as for minute, I just need to, press or a utility hammer is really the way to go. They sold us with the KA75s. I got stamps to stamp out like embossed logos. So, you could do that in a press too. It would work in either. Probably not a die set I would ever put in a power hammer.
No. Not that specific die set.
Well, yeah, right. And but again, it's just down to that. Doing stamping, I would not want to do stamping in a power hammer. It's such a volatile stamping. And I was talking to Andrew Larson about this recently. He said, I only have failures at stamping, like in his hammer production. So tooling up a press for that, so it's the same every time. Is so again. But are you doing production?
Yeah. Me personally, yes, I'm making presses.
So the thing is, it is very personal. You have to decide what's going to fit. If you already have a huge air compressor, throw in a K75 next to other equipment. Man, it's like having a 100-pound sledgehammer in your right arm or left arm if you're a lefty. Having it there and on. And back in the shop all the time, if the KA75's on and the air compressor's on, I'll go to it multiple times in my forging operations to straighten, planish. I'll use a flatter and just get it. I just need to get that bit a little tweaked. It's
fixing a drift after you've drifted and you pull your drift out and you're, I'm a little crooked.
It's wonky, right? Just give her a smack. And you got nice big flat dies, so it's not going to tear stuff up. Yep. The die size on it is massive compared to the hammer. Yeah. And it's great. It's awesome.
I would say that if you're a guy that's just kind of starting out and only has a couple tools, you're going to love the 12 ton. You're going to love a 16 ton. If you're not familiar with different machinery, I think the entry or the level to entry is easier on a press.
Yeah.
But
K75 is close.
K75 is very close, and I think what overtakes it is if you have the top tooling.
Yeah.
Because it's easier to do weird stuff on a hammer or on a K75 than on a press because, like you said, presses are only as good as their tooling.
Right.
They're only as good as the die that you have made, and dies are very, very specific outside of like the drawing die.
A full width flat. And I was using top tools on the full width flat die the other day when I was doing my samples. But after I did a couple samples, I knew what I needed, and I went and made a super wonky, but I needed to do a very specific operation.
And if you have a shop that is set up that you have 20 years of you collecting like top tools and fabrication tools, and I would say the K75 is going to be a better, more versatile machine than you start like from day one.
Right.
Yes, you can get the 12 ton to where you made your own dies. You did,
of course,
all that. But from day one, the K75 is going to be more convenient and readily available for you because you can just take your hammers over, your top tools over, and it has a 5/8 11 bolt for if you've got like spring swages or anything like that, like just bolt it on, mount a Hardy. Yeah. So that's where I would say that the K75 inches out, and it's just barely inches out the 12 ton, but I don't know.
Well, you can put small dies in a K75. You can't put massive dies in a 12 ton.
Yep, that's true.
And the die area is the value of the machine. And so on raw surface area, K75 wins up against a 12 ton. There's a factor here that I have only recently started to really appreciate. And that is, I can have my air compressor outside plumbed into my building, and I can have my K75 on, and the only thing that you hear is
A gentle hum.
the gentle hum of the air compressor outside, and then the impact of the work makes for a very nice shop environment. Whereas all hydraulic systems whine.
Yep.
It's the nature of the beast. They whine in direct, in direct comparison, whatever my brain turned
Correlation?
off. Correlation to the size. So if you have a 10 horsepower power pack, it's much louder than a 2 horsepower power pack, but 10 horse is also much faster. Yes, you can technically plumb that sucker into another room. I've done it, and I have customers that, have 10 horsepower powering industrial equipment. But that's not generally what you're going to do. And so it's a small thing, but I told Jason Knight when I was at his shop where he had the fire recently, I was at a class with him, and it was so convenient to walk up to his utility hammer. His air compressor was way far away, plumbed in, and I just needed to do a couple hits. I didn't have to turn a machine on. I walked up to the hammer. It was on, silent, and I gave it a couple whacks, and it was done, and I went back to my work. It's just like, it's a convenience level thing, quality of life level thing, but it's something that you will appreciate when you have it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, it's like being at Warriors Way this weekend, which we'll talk about later. We typically, I shouldn't say we, but the IBA usually goes out with coal forges.
Yeah.
And it was kind of nasty and windy, and we were under a tent, so we used a propane forge. And just the difference in the roar of a propane forge and
the quiet, gentle fire of a coal forge. Yeah. Yeah.
It's just that little, I never realized how soothing a coal forge sounds. And it's made me think, as I'm setting up my home shop, I was going to plumb directly into, and I might still do it, but I have a propane tank outside my barn, and I was going to plumb straight into that to have a propane forge. But, for anything that I'm doing in my shop at home, it's not like I'm under the gun to get it out.
Well, and you're there to enjoy the process.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to use my coal forge a lot more. And it's literally just the first time I thought about it was this weekend, where I've never been able to ask, or not been able to ask Paul a question and then not like, whereas this weekend it was like, what was that? And Paul's not soft spoken by any means. He's not the loudest guy at the party, but I can always hear him. And that was the first time that was like, oh, what? So that, to your point, the quality of life of having something that's just kind of there, it's on, it's kind of waiting for its moment. That's a good machine.
Yeah.
It's a valiant thing for a machine to do. So we've talked about presses. I've got the biggest lump in the back of my throat. I don't know if it's snot, if it's one big booger.
Do you need to take 5?
I don't know. It's fine. I'll work through it. I'll just sound like an old man.
Pleasant.
We've talked about the K75. We've talked about presses. Everybody's probably tired of hearing us constantly talk about presses. At what point do you think that a power hammer is the right move?
Drawing out. I mean, the other thing is you have to buy a big enough one. You can't do big work on a small hammer, and you can do small work on a big hammer. That's why we're trying to get up into that 75-pound range, just because that's a nice sweet spot for most things. The power hammer, I mean, you'll see videos. I love the videos from third world countries where they're just making it work.
Yeah.
But they also generally have 100 to 200 pound hammers, and they're forging everything under these hammers. And, they have tons and tons of tooling. I think a lot of this boils down to you have to have the right tooling. You can't blame a machine for doing what, it's up to you to make sure either you purchase the correct tooling or you make the correct tooling for your process. a power hammer is wonderful. Don't get me wrong. And I am experimenting now with improving my process, which has been entirely on presses, and introducing some power hammer work to it too. For drawing out, making knives, blades, setting welds on a press makes complete sense. Drawing out from a 5-inch billet down to a half-inch billet on a press makes perfect sense. But when it's time to do like drawing tangs and isolating material and drawing that material out to fine points, you're not going to beat a power hammer.
Yeah.
Each machine has different competencies. If you get a big enough hammer that can work large stock, then you can do punching operations and things like that under it. But I've just seen enough guys struggle with punching accurately. Someone like Brent Bailey, 250-pound little giant, and he's producing world-class hammers and axes and stuff on
his
that hammer.
PBS video. I think he was on How It's Made. It's so
Oh,
good.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah,
It was on
it's
How
so
It's Made.
good.
I think he did like a claw hammer or something, right?
I think it was just a peen. Just straight peen.
Oh. Cool.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Does that clear your thoughts on the power hammer?
Yeah,
what else is going on in there?
I just think each machine, if you bring a machine into your shop, you're growing your capability and competency in the shop, but you have to personally grow your competency and ability to utilize that equipment effectively. And we've had customers that buy small presses and then sell them and buy bigger presses. But we've also had guys sell big presses and go back to small presses and, optimize their process and tooling. And they just want the press to do this single sole operation.
Right.
And, someone like Derek Melton might tool that sucker up and do stamping only in that 12-ton press ever. But what he bought was simple capability. He needs it to do one repeatable job. And so, I think there's a lot to be said here for what you're making and buying the machinery to do it. But if you're looking for a machine that's going to help you identify what you want to make, buy something versatile and get really good at it. And you're going to be able to do a lot of work. But if you buy too small of a machine in the beginning, you'll work around it for a long time. And then hopefully you'll have sold enough work or brought in enough contract work coming up that then you can, sell it and buy something more expensive that is going to give you more capability. So a bigger press, a bigger hammer, etc. As far as power hammers go, I don't have a ton of time on power hammers. I've got a lot of time on presses. I've always been a press guy. I like the way that they move material. A KA75 feels very just adjacent to that. Power hammers I don't make a lot of small, thin things. So a power hammer wasn't really ever a big deal, but I want to make some really cool, homesteading butcher sets and stuff like that. A power hammer is the right tool for those.
Yeah.
When you're talking about blades and thin work and I want to forge, forks and things that I can use in my butchering process at home, it's like a power hammer is the right tool for that, for sure. So I think that's all my thoughts.
Yeah, I think I agree with you when you say that it boils down to what you want to do and what tooling you're comfortable making. I think it's a lot easier to make top tools than it is dies.
Maybe if you have, we have a full machine shop. We've got multiple machine shops here. So when I wanted to make a die set for the press yesterday, I went and found some offcuts from the saw and I welded them and I heat treated them and I had the die set I needed. And it was a complicated die set if I had tried to CAD model it in 3D, all that. My point is top tools can be made very inefficient or very effectively for very little, very economically.
Well, they can also be made inefficiently too.
Sure. But if you want that crossover between top tooling that can be used on an anvil, technically you could use small power hammer top tools on an anvil, but it needs a lot of force behind it, right? And so, I think it's going to be personal preference is the biggest thing, and what you're trying to make and how you're trying to make it. But yeah, Evan, you are going to have to edit this. This is getting to be too much.
I think it's not. We did an episode where you just like burped into the microphone like several times.
Yeah. Wasn't that like a funny episode though? I was just being funny. I was being one of the guys.
All right. I think making top tools is easier than making dies because there are nuances to dies you understand that you don't think about anymore.
Sure. Well, like I went out and got a blank die plate.
Sure.
There's one,
Yeah,
right?
putting tenons on a die plate
Yeah.
for
Accurately.
us is very easy.
Right. We have jigs and fixtures and experienced welders and
Yeah. No, semi-experienced.
Well, I wasn't talking about you.
I wouldn't even put me close to that. But I think I would if I was building my shop, looking at my shop right now, you know, if I close my eyes, it's like, okay, propane forge goes there, coal forge goes there. I have a place for a KA before I do a press or an induction forge, just based off of, like you said, it's kind of in the middle of I can use my top tooling on my anvil. I can go over, I can run it on their KA. When I buy a power hammer, I can use that top tooling under the power hammer. And then when I eventually buy a press as well, some of that top tooling might make it over. But I think that as you tool up, the KA gets more and more valuable, where your other machines, you have to tool up that specific machine.
Right.
It's a lot more dedicated tooling. So that's where I think the KA wins it out there. But you're totally right. If me, who is planning on getting into more ornamental and gates, railing, like I've had my time with hand tools and hammers and, you know, making weird shaped punches and chisels and stuff like that. Like a press has been wonderful for all of that. But as I get into an area where I don't know exactly what I'm going to be making or even exactly what the process entails because I've not done a ton of it, the KA75 makes way more sense for me. So that's kind of the difference between the three. And that's where the assets are is if you really know what you're doing and you want to make 100 of them, press all the way. If you know what you're doing and it's small, hammer all the way. But if you're going on this venture where it's like, I need this machine to work for everything and I don't have the ability to spend 3 or 4 hours designing a die for every time a project catches my eye. Like maybe Dan posted it. Can you look up Dan's Instagram and see if they posted the gate that they made at Kurt's? There is
Dan who?
Dan Browski.
Oh, duh.
DB Forged. Forge or Forged. I can't remember.
I feel like I did see that somewhere.
But
Yeah, I think they all posted it. Corbin posted it. Kurt posted it.
a lot of this is handwork, but some of it is stamping. And some of it is stamping.
Yeah.
But most of this could feasibly be done under a KA. And I would have the top tooling already, as opposed to if I were to do this under a press, I would need dies.
Right.
I would need to be able to make my dies.
Yeah.
So this is also shout out the guys that go to Kurt's on Thursdays.
Yeah. Which
now that I live not 55 minutes away, I'm excited to get out there more and hang out with them. They did a wonderful job on this. This is a Cyril. I can't remember his last name. Like and subscribe, comment Cyril's last name in the video or on the comments.
Cyril?
Cyril, Cyril. Cyril.
That's the name of the guy that designed this gate?
Yes, so he's an Austrian immigrant that he lived in. It's so I can't remember his last name. Kurt showed him to me, and I have spent at least one night every single week watching videos on him, reading book. I read a book about him. He immigrated here. He was born in Austria, moved to Germany, immigrated here, got national citizenship via some sort of weird passport program where it was like you moved here, you weren't a citizen, but then you went back home, you had to get a passport.
Cyril Kalnick.
Kalnick, yes. You had to go back home, and then so to get the passport, you had to be a citizen. So you wouldn't apply to be a citizen, you would apply for a passport, and then to expedite their passport, they would just be like, yeah, I guess you're a citizen now, because they didn't want to deal with making you a citizen to get a passport. They just would give it to you. So he is famous for all of the gate work for Pabst, both the brewery and the guy who Pabst was named after. His home mansion and stuff. He did a few churches. He did a couple houses that are now historic houses. But, look him up. He's got a cool story. That's him. A lot of very terrifying little gargoyle and demon faces in his work.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
That's adorable. Mm-hmm. And really complex.
We need to put that on. So the whole reason that I heard about this guy, they're doing the gate. But when I went over and I was talking to Kurt, I was like, oh man, I really like this design you guys have laid out. They had it printed kind of 1-to-1 scale. Not kind of, actually 1-to-1 scale. And I was like, oh, is this like a Whitaker or a Yellen? Like, he was like, I don't know how to forge. What? And he then, in Kurt's very gentle, loving way, let me know that Sam Yellen and Francis Whitaker were good blacksmiths and they were great designers. So they hired a bunch of people and then they would design. And so a lot of the installations you see from Yellen and Whitaker are their apprentice or Yellen and Whitaker doing it very quickly to try to get it in and then go do more work. Whereas Kolnick, it was him.
Interesting.
So he was showing me pictures, and I mean, he was like, get your face in there. Like, look at the picture. Like, look how bad that forging is.
These are insane.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. I think that was for a World's Fair. I think he won the.
Wait, that said it was somebody else did that. Or is Wink?
Yeah, go ahead and say that.
Winkler?
That's the name of the type of vase. Wine cooler.
Wine cooler?
Vine cooler.
Wine cooler?
Yeah, no, that's Cyril's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that.
And also amazing.
Yeah, I think that was for a World's Fair.
Why don't we have World's Fairs anymore?
Because they're expensive, brother. Like collapsed economies. Bad.
We still do the Olympics. That's kind of
Also expensive and collapses economies. Very bad. Anytime you bring large events like that into a place, it is almost always ruins their economy for like 5 to 10 years after because they create so much infrastructure at once and it's a hollow infrastructure. So as soon as that event goes away, the zip line that you built, which, Indianapolis had the Super Bowl, the zip line went away. Like they were planning on people zip lining through Indianapolis for the next 10 years. Really? That was your business model?
I could totally see that.
They overturned the open container laws in Indianapolis for Super Bowl Village, so you could drink alcohol on the street. They still haven't remedied that, so now you can just drink publicly and openly, which you can, if you do it responsibly, there's really not a problem with it. But if you're passed out with 15 wine bottles around you, you probably have a problem, and we should be able to do something about that. Hotels, the amount of hotels in Indianapolis per populace is pretty crazy. We are an hour and a half north of it.
They didn't build hotels.
They did.
No, they did.
They did.
They did not build a hotel for the Super Bowl.
They did. The reason that
Producer Evan.
I'm on it.
The reason that we have a new Holiday Inn and all the hotels on 69, those got built during Super Bowl.
I think you're overlapping.
I'm not. So
the JW Marriott was built in 2012 for the Super Bowl.
What?
Yeah, I think
The
that's the only one
JW
I'm
Marriott, the
finding.
massive blue building that's been there since I moved to Indiana?
well,
I'm sorry, it was just expanded.
Yeah.
For the Super Bowl.
it's expanded. The ones on the hotels on the Circle did a ton of work.
No matter what new data you bring me, I won't believe you.
Yeah, I know. It's been 15 years. I can literally take you back in time and show you it happening, and you would be like, nah, you put the date in wrong.
Yeah,
This isn't that.
for sure.
It's not that. But the NCAA is based out of Indianapolis, and they're pretty not good for the economy when they bring the Final Four here for basketball, stuff like that. So
So what you're saying is that sports are actually an economic drain.
sports are not an economic drain if They are privately funded if you don't have tax dollars paying for the stadium, and it's a home team. So when you bring a one-time sports event in, it's bad, but things like the Indiana Pacers, the Indianapolis Colts, Chicago Cubs, the Bears, the Red Wings, all those kind of hometown sports teams, those all have a good economic impact so long as the owners aren't using tax dollars to pay for stadiums, which is a big thing right now. A lot of stadiums are being built by taxpayer dollars, and that's not good. Indianapolis has I think it's an extra 1% tax that built Lucas Oil. So you're paying an extra penny on every dollar that you spend so that you can have a football team that's good once every 15 years. In Indianapolis' case, at least, they're only good every once in a while. And that's economics with Francis. So that kind of sums up where I wanted to be with the what's the difference with the machines, what's the capabilities of the machines. If you guys have any questions, we're going to make Evan answer them on YouTube, on Instagram. And then he's also going to start doing live journals. He's going to start doing video journals every morning of his first hour and a half from the moment he wakes up until he gets into the office. So
It is not going to be BG.
I didn't understand what that means.
PG?
Yeah.
PG. I thought you said
Cranky
BG, and I didn't know what BG was.
and probably swearing.
But they get to see a lot of Darla.
Oh, yeah. It was her birthday yesterday.
Who's Darla?
My dog.
Can we just talk about that you had rats?
Yeah.
No, probably not.
Like you owned rats on purpose?
And not snakes.
Nope. They don't like each other.
Turns out. Okay, moving on. Let's get to the segments of customer questions. I need to email Kurt this week. I need to email him and have him answer some of these. I would love to have Kurt.
I feel like we already
Steve.
answered the customer's question.
I've been running my shop solo for a couple years now, and I'm starting to feel it in my elbows and in my shoulders. I love the hands-on side of forging, but I've seen and been thinking about how long I can keep doing this without wrecking my body. How do you all balance staying true to the craft while also working smarter and not harder? Did you ever hit the point where you realized something had to just change to keep it going? So yeah, we talked about that with machinery, but as far as like physical health, stretch. Yeah.
We stretch every morning. I stretch at my house.
We do it together.
And when I am at my home shop
do it at your house.
I do. I don't do our stretches. I do my own stretches. When I was forging recently, I started to have insane back pain. So
Was it in the membrane?
I raised up I put my presses on blocks and I raised them up 10 inches until it was because I was finding myself like this. Like when you weld and you're all hunched over. And it was excruciating.
Can we put the table on 10-inch blocks, please?
No, because it needs to be short for the big stuff. But I started doing these boys and just hold it for 30 seconds. Oh my gosh, stretch that sucker out.
You're doing it now.
Yeah. Oh, it feels good.
Maybe we need to do a stretching segment.
Oh, we could do a stretching segment.
No.
I think stretching is important. We stopped stretching as a company and then started again because people were hurting their backs.
Who hurt their back?
I don't know. But I remember the conversation. You were like, I hurt my back. We started stretching again.
He says that every day, though.
Yeah, my back is always hurt.
Well, stretching helps. Stretching is huge. I buy the stretching. I think it works.
I agree. Stretching is good. Always make sure that you're limber before you go out to your shop. The other thing I would say is Tiger Balm. Put Tiger Balm on everything. Evan, where's our Tiger Balm? I'll put some on right now. I'll show you how this works. So what you need to do is you need to hire somebody who's in their senior year of college, and that person needs to be certified and videography, and then you need to let him run your entire marketing department, and he will get so stressed out that he buys Tiger Balm to just take him from this planet. You take it, and you just dab it, and then you rub. And it's got all kinds of Chinese magic in it. The ancestors call, and they start massaging you.
So I would say stretching's great. Don't be afraid to lift your machines or your tables. Get stuff up to a comfortable height. If your back hurts every single day. I was just talking to Evan about butchering chickens. We spent 5-6 hours butchering chickens. The worst part of the process was that all my tables were too short. And I was bent over 5-6 hours.
Tell me about it.
And it was brutal. Like, honestly, hurt bad days after. And Malin put her back out doing it. My mom's back hurt. It was a whole thing. So never treat anything that you own as untouchable. Move it, shake it up, lift it up,
when
get
you
it comfy.
Say anything that you own, do you mean like your
people will buy an
machine
anvil and they will
okay.
have this thought in their head that they cannot break the corners, mess with it, mount it to a table. And it's not true. Like, the heritage of tool industry is things were modified to suit.
Right.
And, I was back in the school. My anvil at home is a touch low, right? It's a big anvil. It's like 560 pounds, and I have it low for big work. The funny thing is, I don't do that much big work. And so I was back in the school. We have a 716 pound forged, I think, Austrian pattern. And it is so large that it is just on a normal stand. It is way taller than normal. And it is now my favorite height.
It is so large that it is my height. It is the anvil
so it is
that I
too
work
tall
on.
for me.
Yes.
And I'm realizing it is so much more comfortable. And I heard older guys all the time say, I can't follow that instruction because the instruction is it's line up with your second knuckle. Well, after forging on the one back there, I'm gonna adjust my home one up because I am so much more comfortable. And I just, as I get older, I'm only in my 30s, but I'm already noticing
she don't move like she used to.
back pain.
Yep.
You especially when you're forging and you're bent over, you do it once or twice. That's one thing. But when you're spending 10, 15 hours doing that,
yeah,
all of a sudden it's a whole different, it's so important. Get it up on a comfy height, get your tooling easy at nice levels. So I can just slide things over. I'm not picking up, cause I've got some dies that weigh 50 pounds each. So I have a shelf that's at the same height. I can slide them off the shelf onto the work table and into the press. Keep it simple.
Yeah. Also, I genuinely was not like that. Got a little silly, but Tiger's Balm it alleviates all it alleviates all of the pain temporarily, but it's like icy hot. Only you don't smell weird.
No, you smell weird, but.
I do, but most people
The Tiger Balm. The Tiger Balm smells
Yeah.
weird. It's nice.
You
though.
don't like it?
No, I like it.
Oh,
it's
okay.
nice, but
You think
it's
it's
weird.
Oh.
When do you smell that in your life? Outside of when you put Tiger Balm on?
This smell?
Yeah.
I just smells like Vicks Vapor Rub to me. It's got the little bit of menthol in it.
There's no menthol in it.
Not a bit.
This is why I can't trust you about the JD Marriott being expanded for the Super Bowl.
Hold on. I'm reading ingredients.
There's no menthol in that. Also, my beautiful wife uses some kind of CBD oil that's really good.
It's only 10% menthol.
I'll kill you. I'll physically kill you.
Yeah, there's none in there besides the
Give it to me.
10%. Good
I still
Lord.
don't believe you.
Oh my gosh.
Just because it has menthol in it doesn't mean it's got menthol in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
All right.
It does not smell like Vicks Vapor Rub.
We pick up on different things. Okay, so the only other thing
Okay,
that
I smell the Vicks Vapor Rub now.
Yeah, okay.
I hate you.
It's almost
you
like it
ruin
works.
everything I love.
almost like, why would that ruin what you love?
I don't like Vicks Vapor Rub.
Why not? That's weird. That's such
I don't
a weird
know. It's
thing
just
to
a
not
weird.
like.
It's just a weird thing.
If I'm even the slightest bit like,
Like
just-
today?
Yeah, you just.
Can you just put this in your nose, please?
He did.
I did. Did you catch it on camera?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so the only other thing that I wanted to cover is I wanted to reiterate, if you have a KA75 that is not working, email me at service@coaliron.com. There are two things that might happen. One, I might have what you need in stock and ready to ship today. Two, I might include you in the trial program of KA Rebuild and Restoration. So we don't know exactly 100% what it'll look like, but the framework is you ship it to me, I call you, I give you a quote for time and material, you pay me, I ship it back to you.
Fixed.
Done.
Totally restored.
And I'll even repaint it. I don't care. I got a
Sure.
paint booth.
Got 3 paint booths. Well, 2 and a half.
Well, we got the whole outside. So email me, let me know your symptoms, what's going on. Let me know the
How
details.
Tiger Balm can help you.
Let me know what happened, when it stopped working. Were you doing something? Was it just an overtime thing? The more that I get to know about these, because the unfortunate thing about buying a brand is I now have 30 years worth of these machines in the field,
Yep.
which gives me a great opportunity to offer value to those customers.
Right.
But I don't necessarily know how these break or, what entails rebuilding them.
Well-
right now, we just assume we're going to have to rebuild the cylinders on all of them.
One of the things that we have found is that we've had a couple customers of KAs that have had KAs for 20 years. And the differentiator is if they had an inline air oiler, over and over and over again, those customers had 0 issues with their air system. And so that's why we now package them and sell them with inline air oilers, because it seems to be, as long as the air system is lubricated, you will have way more limited problems.
Yeah.
So I think inline air oiler, the Tiger Balm is in my eyes.
It's wonderful.
It's sore. So inline air oiler, if you don't, the seals over time chew themselves up as they degrade. That's how seals work.
That's rubber.
But having the lubrication system seems to extend their lives. But I think there will be a lot of air cylinder rebuilds. Again, I don't know exactly how many are in the field. I've heard estimates of between 500 and 800.
Bob told me that they were hoping to sell 40 a year, and they got up to about 25, 30.
Okay.
So about 25 to 30 for 30 years.
Right.
Gives you 600.
Sure. Right in the middle of that range.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be a lot that we'll be able to help with, guys having old setups. And we've had a couple guys, sell us their old worn out ones as we were figuring this out. But now I think especially because we have Greg, and Greg is such a skilled technician when it comes to troubleshooting, swearing. Golly, yeah. I have heard new combinations of words in the last 3 months that I've never heard in my entire life.
He's the first interview that I went back and listened to.
Yeah, just to make sure.
There was
no creative swearing
we
in it.
We didn't say anything inappropriate.
Wow. Yeah. He also came in yesterday and he was like, "Hey, I cleaned up my area." I was like, "That's so good."
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah, I heard that it was pretty messy." I was like, "You heard that it was pretty messy? You didn't just use your eyeballs?" He's like, "Hey, I it's all clean now." And it actually is. It looks great.
It looks great.
He did a great, I love Greg.
That is the thing with Greg that more than any other human on this earth, I've known Greg for 15 years. You've known Greg for probably about 10.
Not
11,
known.
but not
known of.
Right. So for like the past 2 or 3 years that he's been coming around, you've gotten to know him.
Yes.
Because Greg trusts. This is all right. Insider business tips with Francis. How about that?
Okay. Following your economic developments.
Yes, following economic developments. Greg trusts you and me. You and I. I beat you before you got to me. Before you corrected me. Greg trusts us.
Put the fear of God in there.
So when we ask him to do something, there is sometimes what if, where he has a thought process to it, but 95% of the time it's okay. So I, go to him on Monday morning. Actually, it was Saturday night when I got the email from you. Said, hey, bud, just got a pretty scathing email that you have been told a couple times that this is an opportunity for you.
Yeah.
This is the not okay point.
Right.
And he goes, yeah, okay. And then Monday morning had probably 75 emails because I was out Friday.
Right.
So about 10:30 or 11 o'clock, I get out to the floor to help him because this is just as much my responsibility for not keeping on him as it is his. I get that. So I go out to help, and he's already got it cleaned, and he's building something else. And I was like, hey, and I ended up moving like 2 or 3 things just to feel like I did something. But when you hire employees that trust you,
and that you trust, yep.
There is so much of a difference, and it makes, as a manager or a business owner or anybody that's in any sort of leadership, the conversations that you're like, ooh, let me think through this for the next 2 or 3 hours so that I can figure out the right wordage, the right verbiage. I can just go up to Greg and be like, dude, you're a pig. I need you to clean out the freaking slop that you have thrown around this building. There are other people that work here, and it's not okay. And he'll just go, all right, yeah, you make a valid point. And he knows that I'm not doing it out of malice. He knows that, because there's trust.
Right.
So that's my insider tip for the small business guys is either hire people or work.
Don't hire your family.
Trust. Yes.
Hire your friends, but be prepared to fire them.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yep.
I'm always on the edge of my seat waiting for it. That's all I think about.
Good. That's good. That's why I trust you.
But yeah, hire people you trust or actively seek out what you can do to build trust. And I'm not talking about like, I bring donuts in every Thursday. It's like, okay, cool. You bring donuts in on Thursday, but then you hide in your office and you refuse to do things you're asking other people to do. The reason people respond to Nathan when he asks them to do weird stuff is because he's always out there doing weird stuff. When we have to build a cell, it's like you ask me to paint a gantry crane. And the reason that I'm okay with doing that is because I watched you build the entire cell. And the only thing you asked me to do was paint.
Yeah. And you did a great job. It looks awesome.
Ran the electrical. Thank you. I actually struggled with that a lot.
It was that's part of why I didn't want to do it was I haven't painted in like 2 years.
Yeah.
And every time I go out there and I used to be the painter.
Yeah.
And I know how to throw the stuff together and I get out there and I'm spraying. I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also I had like 80 hours into putting the cell together and I was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I want to go do something else now.
Yeah. So
I appreciate that. You did a great job.
You went and ran the electrical, you set up the gantry crane, you fiddled with what the layout might look like. You did some dry runs in building the KAs. And the reason that it was when you asked me to paint it, we argued about the color. But when you asked me to paint it, it wasn't, freaking Nathan. This is his job. He said he was going to build the cell. It's because I watched you do it.
Right.
When you're out on the floor, and that's something that I probably could do better at is being physically on the floor. The problem is that I have to be so responsive to if a customer emails, if a customer calls, if a customer, we have a DM service on our website. We have DMs on our Instagram. People expect that pretty quick turnaround.
Right.
And so the only pushback that I kind of get is like, hey man, I need this done. And then I'll go out to check on it and it's done. But then I wouldn't even say I get pushback on it, honestly. But, I go out to check on it and it's like
feel self-conscious about it.
Yeah.
It's like should I have come out and done this?
Should I have done this? And then it's like, well, also yesterday I was on the phone for 2.5 hours with one customer.
Right.
I left at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that to say like, oh, I work harder than you guys. It's just like, I also...
You can't do both.
I can't do both.
Yeah.
I can't sit and weld cart tops while I'm on the phone with a customer.
Right.
I did both yesterday, but the reason I had to call that guy back at 3:30 instead of at noon is because I was welding. Right. So going out and actually physically being on the floor and doing stuff, which Shiloh actually walked by me and he saw me with my hood on and he was like, "Oh, you welding today?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Hell yeah, brother." Which is like kind of maybe funny for Shiloh, but also I felt like it was a little genuine. Like, he got amped up knowing that I was out there and like I had the opportunity. He might have just been amped knowing how much I hate sitting in the office doing nothing. So get out on the floor every 2 or 3 days, do something, go out and just grab a guy on the floor and say, "Hey, what do you need help with?" Like, make time for that as a leader, as somebody who owns a business, as somebody who manages a small team or even a large team. In my previous job, one of the people I looked up to the most was, I think there was like 3 of him in the company, maybe 4. So he was like upper echelon management. It was like him and then CEO was next up in line. And when he came and did visits in my store, he actively sold and like he would like talk to customers and sell to customers.
Yeah.
And when he got a sale that was commissioned, he would go to the register and put his numbers in. Like, he was still competitive and like wanted to be a part of the action.
Yeah.
And everybody everybody that ever met him was like, "Yeah, I respect him because he comes in and he does exactly what he expects out of us."
Right.
He doesn't come in and say, "Well, this wasn't folded right," or "That color doesn't match that," or which happens often when you're colorblind and try to color match outfits. But he would come in and he would challenge you. He would be like, "Okay, first one with a $200 sale has to buy lunch or get, the other person buys them lunch." But he was active. And then at the end of the meeting, he would come up and be like, "These are the things I need to work on." And he would always be like, "Okay, I will work on those things because you physically were challenging me and you saw me in my area of greatest opportunity. You didn't just walk in and assume."
Right.
I think that's what happens with a lot of guys on the floor is when if I were to go to Josh's cell and tell him like, "Hey, I need better penetration on this," he's not going to respect me because I have way less experience with welding, but also I'm not in his cell and I'm not actively experimenting with him. Well, how do we, do we need to slow our feed down? Do we need to do this? Do we need to do that? It's just like a instruction and then walk away. Mm-hmm. But if I'm in his cell, the 2 or 3 weeks that I spent with him in his cell where we were doing fit ups and we were welding everything together, that's where there was kind of a change in me and Josh's relationship where he started actually collaborating with me. I was going to say listening, but with Josh's cell, it's a lot of me listening and then coming to a decision based off of kind of some variables. But long rant, weird rant. That's my one for the week. But get involved. Be active on your floor.
It's not even remotely close to your one for the week.
On the podcast.
Ah, yes.
I get 1 per episode. I guess it would be 1 per episode, not
okay,
1 per week.
Cool.
But,
well, we film 1 episode per week. So.
Yeah. Be
your maths.
Be active in every part of your business. It doesn't mean you have to control everything or be there every single day doing something in each cell every day. Just make sure that you schedule out meaningful time to walk into somebody else's cell and work with them. Simple. Let your employees trust you. Anything to add? Okay. The closing comments that Evan wants to know about, and I'm pretty sure this is because people also follow you on Instagram. What's going on with the farm? What's the plan?
Me?
Yeah. These new suspenders have got you acting a certain kind
brother.
of way.
I'm not having a good morning. I had to detach them in the back because they're so flippin' lumpy.
Well, they're leather.
Yeah. Anyway, I found my suspenders this morning at 4:55 in the dark because I stepped on the metal
clasp.
The clasp. So I was too spiteful to wear them today because they cut my foot. The farm's fine. Did some trim work last night. I'm not a trim carpenter, so that's always exciting. Installing.
I don't think you're that pudgy.
I have been bad at finishing things my whole life. right? And so I'm very ecstatic that I'm actually like finishing our kitchen and doing some trim carpentry.
The kitchen it does look great.
It's awesome. Yeah. It's awesome. Malin has a friend from church that comes in and helps us clean every once in a while. And she came in and she was like, she hadn't been there in like 2 months.
Yeah.
She came in and she's like,
the plastic was up.
whoa. That felt good.
I now have to travel 2 counties to come see you.
Yeah, I know. It's 37 minutes away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
37 minutes. It was
Less.
17. So I only added 20.
Yeah. But I mean, we won't see you anymore.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
or less,
roads work in 2 directions. So you could always.
Let me load up my transit van with 5 children.
Yeah.
And come to your house. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I have a pool.
That's a completely like.
I have an upstairs.
You do have a
2
pool.
upstairs.
My kids were very excited about your pool.
You also have a pool.
Yeah. So I have 2 pools. So I put our pool. We have an above ground pool because we're from Indiana.
Yes.
Well, I'm not, but I'm from Ohio.
You're from Indiana now, buddy. I hate to break it to you.
So we put our pool in our basement to store it over winter. And our first floor toilet leaked into the pool shell all winter. We didn't catch the leak because it was all being contained within the pool shell. So I currently have a pool in my basement full of feces, human feces.
Let's get that taken care of.
So
that sounds like a health violation.
Too heavy for me to lift it out of my basement because it's full of feces.
Can we just put a pump in it?
Not of feces.
Blend it up.
So
just get an emulsifier.
Well, I'll have a dinner sometime over this in the spring. Don't want to wait till summer. That's the wrong time to move pools full of feces. We'll lift it out. I have some really fun plans. Right now, the plan is to tear my garage down and build a 2-story brick workshop in the Victorian style.
Whoa!
So putting some schematics together, getting some pricing. So if anyone is good at laying bricks, they should come visit me and help me do that. And we should film it because it's going to be dope. We're going to put in a bridge crane, doing a glass ceiling. I want it, and it's time. So
if that same person could also come and do like a like just even a like cinder block like base around my barn, because I
did that at my house in Cicero. We raised the barn and put it on because it had the original like 8x8 sill plate just sitting on the dirt, and so I cut that out, put in cinder blocks. It was actually super easy. I can totally show you how to do it.
I don't want to lift the barn.
Well, no, you have to lift it to fit the stuff. In my case, the 8x8s weren't big enough to put a cinder block and a sill plate in, so I had to lift it slightly.
Oh, I just want like a short wall around my barn.
Right, but you're going to cut the bottom of your barn off, right?
No, I literally want like you
on the outside. You just want like
you could sit and like lean against the barn.
That's why
we're friends, because I'm a genius.
Okay.
I just think it looks cool. It has no function.
Yeah, that bothers me.
Yeah.
As we've discussed.
Yeah.
Yeah, art for art's sake.
The function would actually just be pouring dirt in it and having small, like, flowers in it.
That's so bad for your barn. You're going to rot your barn out.
How?
Anyway, that's all. I'm going to find out this Sunday if we ate our pig right.
If you ate the pig right?
AI'd our pig, artificial insemination. So I impregnated our pig, hopefully.
You didn't impregnate the pig.
Yeah, I was there.
Oh.
I did it.
I hate this all of a sudden.
That'll be exciting. So we'll have new piglets. Our cow is pregnant.
What kind of pig is it this time?
We did the same one. So Berkshire is our semen. And then she is a Tamworth Old Spot mix. So we get yummy pigs.
What
Some
are
of the best pork I've ever had.
The Coonies were not
good.
Great.
No, I don't want that. I'll never do Coonies again.
What was the Corbin? What does Corbin raise?
I think he raises Berkshire.
Does he? Because his
Berkshire or Tamworth.
His sausage that he gets made in Knightstown with his award-winning pig.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Knightstown Meat Locker in central Indiana is like, go there and buy meat. They have a beautiful supermarket in the front of their butcher shop. You can get veal, you can get whole lamb, you can get fresh everything.
I will speak highly to the country style breakfast sausage.
Yep. We have a bunch of it too.
It
it's
is
fantastic.
So good.
Bacon, their smoked bacon, out of this world.
I'm not a big bacon guy. I have bacon and I've used it from Corbin, but not a huge
Agree to disagree.
Huge bacon guy. I think I got burnt out on it when all of the entire world lost their mind about bacon for
And
like
we
4
all
years.
ate too much bacon.
Yeah. And it was like, oh, peanut butter.
You
and
remember that
bacon
YouTube
and
channel with the guy with the beard and they would just cook
Epic
bacon?
Mealtime.
Epic Mealtime. Whatever happened to that guy?
Drugs in prison, I think.
Nope.
Not that?
I just watched a thing about what happened. He he was just tired of it. And he planned a slow demise so that he could continue kind of making money while he figured it out. Yeah. I think they had a Food Network show at one point too. But yeah, it was kind of like hey guys, I just don't care about this, but you keep watching videos and I keep making money. So I'm just going to slow it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the downfall of a lot of YouTube guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I want to do this. I'm doing it. Oh God, I can't stop.
Oh, this is more work than I thought it was.
I think so. I think it's probably more draining because of the personalities.
Yeah.
Because I have even experienced, and I'm not, I'm just me, but I have gone to shows and stuff and people know me. Mm-hmm. And that freaks me out. That's super weird.
Yeah. I appreciate when people walk up and they're like, hey, Francis, I'm so-and-so.
Sure.
I watch your videos. Sure. It doesn't bother me when people know my name and assume how they're going to interact with me.
Right, but when they come up and they ask me about
your children.
How's Ollie doing?
Yeah.
Who are you?
Yeah, that's where
I don't know. I never
want
to tell people not to interact. I love that, but I don't know. There's just it's interesting. It's very different from how I've ever lived my life up until this point.
Well, and I am, because you're going to disagree with this, not as outgoing as I am on the podcast and when I'm at shows and things like that. I have a very kind of public
persona,
and it's not fake. It's not like I'm out there and then I turn around from a conversation with you.
It's like a concentrated version of.
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
So when I get home from a show or when we get, honestly, even when we get done with the podcast,
talked out.
I'm talked out. I'm done.
Brother, you were talked out on our way home from Blade Show. And I always say,
oh, it was bad,
that I am an introvert and I get talked out. That might not be true.
Yeah.
I don't know that it is. I like to be alone for long periods of time. Mm-hmm. But yesterday, I didn't work hard enough while I was here, and I went home and sat down and talked to Malin for 6 hours.
Yeah,
and she was like, "Why are you still talking to me?" I was like, "Well, I have this other idea, and I wanted your input." So we're trying to find stone to do the kitchen floor. Mm-hmm. You cannot buy. Okay, we live in Indiana. Indiana has limestone, right?
Lots.
Lots.
More than anyone else.
You can't buy limestone tiles in Indiana from Indiana. I have to import them from Italy. What? I don't want Italian limestone. I want Indiana limestone. I'm looking for 24 by 48 inch tiles.
That's big.
Of limestone.
That's a large limestone.
I want our farm to have floors like they were putting in the century that it was built. Mm-hmm. Can't buy them.
I have vinyl. It's like fake wood, but it looks good.
I have vinyl in my dining room because my kids are messy. But when they're gone, we're going to put down some nice floors. But it's this is a problem. Mm-hmm. I've reached out to Indiana limestone quarries, Indiana limestone,
with Indiana,
and nobody will sell tiles. They don't do it.
That's super weird.
It is weird. It's a problem, and I think you and I should solve it. Let's start another business.
Didn't last week you say that you didn't want to go into business with another person ever again?
No, but see, what I'm saying is I didn't want a partner.
Uh-huh.
You're not my partner. I'm just going to have the ideas, and then you'll go do all the work.
Hate that.
No. Especially because we moved. We always talk about how we should get into something that's lighter.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that's heavier than heavy, industrial fabrication.
50-ton pillars
quarrying.
of limestone. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
I did say the other day with somebody almost genuine concern. They were like, what do you do if coal closes? What happens if coal doesn't exist anymore? And first of all, even if we have to shift gears, coal has a very viable future for the next 190 years. I'm not worried about that. But say everything goes wrong, have to find a new job. Dude, heavy equipment operator sounds like kind of the move. And there's a training area like 10 minutes from here.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's a union center. I don't know if that would be, can you be a heavy equipment operator not in a union? I don't know how that works.
I don't know how that works either.
As soon as you get political like that, I'm out.
Well, it's also like if I'm a guy,
You should just go buy an excavator and start an excavation business.
that's also an option.
Of course. That's
But
always an option.
If I'm a guy building a building and I need heavy equipment operators, I'm probably just going to go to the union because I know they have the insurance and the permitting and like they have it more locked
They're
down.
proper.
Than if I just,
Yeah.
call Greg and ask him to run something for me. He's going to be like, I can do that.
Yeah, but Greg will be just as good.
But Greg, honestly, probably better.
I love Greg.
Yeah, Greg does a good job.
We should make shirts about Greg.
I'm on it.
I got my shirt denied. All right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We had a shirt.
You're too tall. It can't be printed. It won't fit in the print area.
We had a shirt and shorts designed.
Oh man, I gotta find that.
I don't remember what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Was it like Magic the Gathering themed or something? Like he was
kind
a
of.
wizard? I freaking hate
It's
that.
American Lightning.
You're just
American Thunder?
American Thunder. Those shirts with like the panther and then there's just lightning.
Yeah, but
everywhere.
nobody wants to wear Francis brand shirts.
I've been asked several times.
They
from
want
people that
Coal
saw
Ironworks shirts. You can start your own. You can start your own business.
Stroll
Wrench-
Ironworks.
Stroll, and it's just merch.
And
there's no
Ironworks.
ironwork.
No, yeah, exactly.
It's just merch.
Ironworks
Yeah.
is a facade. That's
Right.
what it's like there's a clothing company called Steel City, and it kept getting advertised to me, and I was like, I wonder if this is like just hoodies and stuff. They make it look like it's like an industrial uniform. Like I have a delivery driver shirt from PBR from like the 70s. It's this vintage PBR delivery driver shirt. Super
Sweet
cool.
brag, dude.
It's stuff like that, and it says like Steel City, but that's all it is. It's not.
Yeah.
They don't actually.
They probably don't manufacture it either.
No, it's made in Honduras.
Drives me nuts. Gotta make stuff, guys.
Let's buy a loom. That's way lighter than quarries.
Looms are so complicated.
Yeah, that's why we buy one, not build one.
Oh my god. So what we should do is you should come up with giveaway criteria. Maybe your funny meme. Whoever gives the best Evan meme gets a American Thunder
We've
shirt.
got to.
I'm so excited about.
We've
this.
got to add like text above it or
If
something.
you
so
have
there's
been watching
context.
this podcast long enough to participate in what we're talking about, you probably just deserve this shirt anyway.
That's fair. Evan, pull it back up real quick.
Yeah.
Above my head, we need
Yeah.
like Coal Ironworks or like something to give it context.
Touched
What's
by
the
Stroll. And you're pointing at the screen, or I did that, or something like that.
I think I did that. Is hilarious.
You broke it.
You broke it.
Go do
Harley-
stuff. It's all you can be any of those.
Harley bought me a sticker one time that said, "I'm here because you broke it." That's pretty accurate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Maybe that's it. Maybe
I think we
I'm
need to
here
wrap
'cause you
this up.
broke it.
Do you have any more questions?
No, that's
I need
it.
coffee.
What's going on with the barn and best farm facts? Give me one farm fact.
A duck's penis is large enough and shaped in such a way that if it attempts to mate with a chicken, it will stab it to death. It'll stab the chicken to death, and then you have to kill the duck. Also, I have a duck that showed up in my chicken flock, and it is now a chicken, and it won't leave, and it just eats chicken food and gives me duck eggs, and I didn't ask for it.
God, duck eggs are so gross.
Goose eggs are gross.
No, so are duck.
The duck eggs are fine. I accidentally ate one on Sunday, and it was great. It was totally fine. It was just a little bigger.
Greasy.
Nope. The egg feels greasy.
Yeah, the
the
egg feels
outside of
greasy.
the egg. I think
Yeah.
that's just like a waterfowl thing. They're just
that
like
would make
greasy.
sense.
They're
Yeah.
like
They're
that's how
oily
they,
in general. Yeah.
That's how they protect themselves from the waters. So there's your fact for the day.
I don't.
And the first time you see it happen, you will be traumatized.
I don't have any
It's
fun
not
farm
great.
facts.
That poor chicken. Golly.
The prices of alfalfa have skyrocketed. That's my fun.
That's been true for
Fun,
like 7
fun fact.
years.
That's my alfalfa needs to come back.
I don't feed alfalfa. Reasons.
Yep. We'll talk about
That'll be our fun fact next week.
We'll talk about goats and sheep and which one's better next week.
Sheep. Goats are awful.
Yep.
Goats are the bane. Like, there's a reason that Satan is always shown as a goat.
I think I'm going to do sheep next year.
Okay, I'll help.
Yep. Good meat.
Great meat.
Yep.
Good fleece. My wife just
And
bought.
they're contained.
She just
They
bought.
don't-
Sheep are escape artists. Don't be.
Goats are even worse.
That's not true. A sheep with a thick layer of wool cannot be shocked. So they just walk through your electric fencing.
What if you tell them they're adopted?
Then they'll leave anyway. They need to go find their mom. You know, everybody's got
Their
a
mom didn't want them. That's why I have
Well,
them.
they need proof. They don't trust you either. So I would
wouldn't
say
trust me
a
with
sheepdog, get a nice sheepdog, but a trained sheepdog's like 20 grand.
No, I'm just going to put them in the barn.
Well, sure, but they need outside.
Yeah, I'll let them outside one at a time on their leash. No, I'm just kidding. I have the yard if
Right,
fenced in
you have 3
that
goats.
I can put them in there for.
In the front yard?
Yeah.
All right, so this was great, guys. Thanks for listening to the Cole Cast. We'll be back next week. Keep your stick in a vice.
Shout out Ave,
What's up?
one of the first YouTubes I ever followed.
The best. Just a man of a human.
Funny guy.
So itchy. About halfway through, my head started burning. Oh. Oh.
It's that good stretch.
Turbo mode, dude. My waistcoat didn't pop off, brother.